will collapse at some point in the future, but that time is now a lot further away thanks to the ban. Number 7. Poveglia, Italy. The Venetian Lagoon in northern Italy is an enclosed bay of the Adriatic Sea, where there's a number of protected islands, including most famously Venice itself. The city is actually built across 118 small islands that are connected by more than 400 bridges, and it was first settled more than 2,500 years ago, and the surrounding islands have served in support of the main center. One, known as Poveglia, is abandoned and access is highly restricted, not because of anything taking place there today, but because of its storied past. It was originally inhabited, but in the face of war, the residents fled in 1379, and for almost 400 years it was left empty. In 1776, though, Venetian authorities saw it as the perfect place to set up a quarantine station. The city had become a hub for tourism and trade, but there were increasing risks of people bringing illness such as the plague with them, so anyone showing any symptoms had to go there. It was used for this purpose for almost a century, and then in 1922 the buildings were converted and turned into a mental asylum before finally being abandoned in 1968. During these two uses, countless people died on Poveglia, both because of disease and mistreatment, and it's more recently become known as the most haunted place on Earth. It's the potential presence of historical diseases within the soil that's seen as the greatest threat, though, and to prevent those from re-emerging and infecting the modern-day city, there are huge penalties for anyone who sets foot there. Number 6. Heard Island, Australia. Despite falling under the jurisdiction of Australia, Heard Island is one of the most remote places on Earth, lying around 2,500 miles southwest of Perth and 2,600 miles to the southeast of South Africa in the Indian Ocean. It's on Heard Island, along with the surrounding McDonald Islands, that you'll find Australia's only 2 active volcanoes, and one of them, Mawson Peak, is the tallest mountain in Australia, reaching an elevation of 9,006 feet. Because of where the islands are, they're also covered in 41 separate glaciers and are home to a wide range of different plant and animal species. Although they're volcanic in origin, they're made up of mainly limestone and scattered pieces of other rocks, and this means that they're relatively fragile compared to most other islands. And this is why Australia forbids visitors from going there. Of course, this is a place that's so remote that there's virtually no chance that anyone would reach Heard Island without it being their specific destination. So with the rules in place, there have been fewer voyages to investigate the islands in the past half-century than have been sent to the moon. Number 5. Pluto's Gate, Turkey. Ancient civilizations had a number of rituals and traditions that may seem strange to modern-day cultures, but there was often good reason behind many of their superstitions, and there's one that's still dangerous to this day. Known as Pluto's Gate, it was a well-known site to the ancient Greeks and was in the city of Hierapolis in modern-day Turkey. It was a Plutonian, which means it was a site dedicated to the god of the underworld, Pluto, and it's a small cave that's just large enough for one person to fit inside. Mentioned by several high-profile writers from the time, it was said to be an incredibly dangerous place, and one that only the most devout could enter and return safely from. During the times of the Greeks, a further building was in front of the cave, and this too was a deadly space, so much so that vendors sold animals to visitors so they could put them near to the cave and see how quickly they would die. What first sounds like legend actually has a scientific basis behind it, and it was recently discovered that Pluto's Gate has a series of cracks in the surrounding rock that large quantities of carbon dioxide gas seeps through. As it's invisible and denser than air, anyone that goes in and breathes normally would soon start suffering the consequences. And because of this danger, visitors aren't allowed anywhere near. Number 4. Snake Island, Brazil. Of all the islands in the world that are dangerous for humans to visit, the one that you'd experience the highest chance of death is the Ilha de Camara Grande, which is around 21 miles off the coast of Sao Paulo in Brazil. And it's for good reason that the Navy patrols the area to prevent anyone from going there. That's because it's more commonly known as Snake Island, and it's home to arguably the deadliest species of snake in the world, the golden lancehead viper, and there are lots of them. Thousands of years ago, rising sea levels caused the island to be cut off from the mainland, and a small population of snakes has become trapped. Instead of having a wide range of food sources, they were now restricted to the birds that migrated past and stopped off on the island. So this necessitated an evolutionary change if they were to survive. The result was the development of a much stronger venom that, if bitten, will cause a bird to die almost immediately and close by, which ensures the snake is able to eat it. With an estimated 1 snake per 11 square feet, they're present in huge numbers on the island, and if you were to go to the forested regions, you'd be guaranteed to see them in every direction. Fortunately, no one knows for sure how potent the venom is against humans because very few people have ever been bitten by one, but if the effects on birds are anything to go by, it would likely be fatal before any antivenom or treatment could be administered. Number 3. Surtsey Island, Iceland. On the 14th of November in 1963, a huge underwater volcanic eruption began off the southern coast of Iceland, and it would set in motion a series of events that would become one of the most unique scientific experiments ever. By the time the eruption ended in June of 1967, a brand new chain of islands had been formed, the largest of which was called Surtsey, and it gave scientists an incredible insight into the way that the islands are created. The other formations soon worn away in the face of oceanic erosion, but Surtsey is still there to this day and is only expected to fall back beneath the waves in around a century. It has long been a protected site with only authorized researchers allowed anywhere near, but this isn't anything to do with safety. Instead, it's to prevent contamination on the island, so researchers can further study the development of new islands. Bacteria, fungi, and molds were, for example, the first living organisms to appear on Surtsey, and these provide the basis of the ecosystem that could support more complex life. It is believed there are 89 species of birds and 335 invertebrates in the area, and this number is only expected to increase as time passes. Number 2. Niihau Island, United States. The westernmost and 7th largest island in the Hawaiian archipelago is known as Niihau, and covering an area of 69 square miles, it's 17.5 miles southwest of Kauai. Despite being a lush, wetland region that's as beautiful as the rest of Hawaii, you won't find any resorts to stay in there, and the closest you'll get is a half-a-day helicopter tour to see the island from a distance. That's because of an unusual political agreement that means only people authorized by the island's owners are allowed to go there, and they're notoriously restrictive with who they welcome. The island was sold to Elizabeth Sinclair by the Kingdom of Hawaii in 1864 for $10,000, which is the equivalent of around $170,000 today. And it's her descendants, the Robinsons, that are still in charge. Only members of the family and their relatives, along with U.S. Navy personnel, government officials, and the occasional invited guest are allowed on the island. And this is allowed for the development of a community that's detached from the outside world. This doesn't mean they have nothing to do with anyone else, though, and they've had a long-standing relationship with the U.S. military, to the point where there's a small installation on the island, and it's also occasionally used as a site for specialist training operations. There are now believed to be around 170 residents on Niihau. After building an economy that was mainly sustained by farming, they're all virtually self-sufficient. No rent has to be paid by residents, and meat is free to everyone that lives there. All electricity is provided by solar power, and there are no vehicles, with islanders instead relying on horses for their transport. Number 1. Hart Reef, Australia. Coral reefs around the world are some of the most spectacular sights you'll ever see, but there's one in Australia that's the most photogenic of all. Known as the Hart Reef, it's part of the Great Barrier Reef, but it's slightly detached from the larger structure and has, by sheer coincidence, taken on a shape that looks very much like a heart. Surrounded by crystal clear water and with countless species thriving in the reef, it became the central part of a number of tourism campaigns and attracted a huge number of snorkelers and divers who wanted to experience it for themselves. As is often the case, however, increasing foot traffic led to increased destruction of the reef structure, and there were concerns that if things kept going at the same rate, the Hart Reef would have been irreparably damaged within a few years. The decision was made to ban anyone from visiting, and now the only chance you have of getting your own photo of the romantic outcrop is by hiring a helicopter. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.